My name is Jana Makar, and I'm Communications Manager with New Zealand eScience Infrastructure. And I'm a member of the Organizing Committee for Women in High Performance Computing, the Australasian chapter. And I've got a few other committee members on the call today too, so I'll get them to mention that so they can self-identify themselves as we go through the intros. So there's lots happening for Data Science Week, as mentioned. I'll just put a link to the main website for that there just to help promote it. And we wanted to be a part of this because it's a great week-long series of events and activities that are giving good profile and exposure to this field. And we're about halfway through it now. And our chapter wanted to join in because we've been mulling over different ways to sort of create and support and offer more mentorship activities for women in this field of data science, as well as HPC and e-research in general. So we figured a conversation's always a good place to start. And that's why I wanted to gather people here today, just so that you could share some of your experiences, tips, advice, and or questions for other people in the field. Our organizing committee members tried to put out a few personal invites to make sure that we had some representation from people in their early careers, as well as mid-career and later career. Although internally we had a joke, what does late career mean? This is no reflection on age or experience, and it doesn't always have to be late career within data science itself. So one of our discussion prompts that I'm going to use is how other life and work experiences have maybe fed into your position and role today. So either you could be new to data science, but late in life career. So those are some of the things that we want to sort of dig into today, again, just as a casual conversation. As mentioned, I've got a couple of discussion prompts, but there's going to be no PowerPoint slides till the end. I've got one. We just want to have that open floor sort of discussion. So feel free to chime in. And we really want to sort of drive the discussion to wherever you guys would like to take it. So we've got about 11 people connected, and I think it would be easiest to just do a bit of a round table here. No need to break out into breakout rooms quite yet. We've got a small group, so we can just go around the table and introduce ourselves. I'll work as MC and pass along the baton and move through everyone that I can see on my screen. So I'll start from the top and let you know if you're first up and then who is next. So I'll start actually with one of the people that I personally invited, Kim Fitter. We'll get her to start off with introducing herself and tell us what your current role is within the data science field or HPC and e-research for others, and where you're based, because we've got representation from both sides of the Tasman here, so it'd be nice just for folks to know who's in their local area. And so after Kim, I'm going to pop it over to Aditi. So starting with you, Kim, name, where you're based, and what your role is.
Cool. Hi, my name is Kim Fitter. I am based in Auckland, in New Zealand. So I'm across the Tasman from most of you. I currently work at Xero, which is a company that makes beautiful accounting software. So my role at the moment, I'm called an engineer. We've just gone through a bit of a title change, if you like, across the company. So engineer is kind of a developer. It's quite a broad term. I work as a full stack engineer. So it's really working on projects that integrate machine learning tools with web applications. So I really get to, it's exciting because I get to use a lot of different languages, and so front end, back end, and I get to use machine learning and see how it actually gets used by customers. So just before this, or previous to this role, I was working as a data scientist at a startup, primarily using R. So that's my main data science language, if you like.
Cool, excellent. Thanks, Kim. We're going to turn it over to Aditi, and then Carrie will be next.
Hey everyone, my name is Aditi. I am from the Pawsey Supercomputing Centre in Perth, Western Australia. So you kind of cross the Tasman and then drive a hell of a lot of desert, and then you get to Perth. My role within Data Science Week and Data Science is firstly working at the Pawsey Supercomputing Centre. So we work with really cool researchers, data scientists, and various other people in a whole range of fields. I get to communicate their work, create videos. I lead our digital content. So I produce videos, podcasts, all of our newsletters, our websites, those sorts of things. I also lead the Data Science Week project. So this week of events is my annual baby that I get to see come into fruition every year. And it's just a lot of fun bringing a lot of different data science communities together to talk in groups like this and run a whole range of events. That's me.
Cool. Thanks, Aditi. We'll go over to Carrie, and then after Carrie, I'm going to pop over to Iron. You seem muted for me, Carrie. Sure. Maybe we'll, audio. Maybe we'll skip ahead if you're ready, Iron. You could jump in early. And
Hello.
we'll come back to Carrie. Thanks.
Hi, everyone. I'm Iron. I live in New Zealand and I work at the New Zealand eScience infrastructure with Jana. So I'm currently putting together the data science genomics Aotearoa repository. Sorry, data repository for genomics Aotearoa. So as you may be aware, in New Zealand, you can't export protected species. And the same thing is true with the genomics data. So we're hosting it onshore so that researchers are able to access data and request data without it leaving New Zealand without permission. And in terms of data science, I've had roles in data science going back to 2017, and I've recently started my PhD in data science, hoping to grow that career. I actually started working in 2004, and I wanted to call that out because I know I look a lot younger than I am. And so I don't know if that makes me mid-career, but in terms of data science, early career, time for a change, and looking forward to sharing my journey with you.
Awesome. Thanks, Iron. Carrie, how are you going?
Take two, we'll see if that's working.
Yeah,
Okay,
success.
excellent.
Thank you. After Carrie, we're going to go to Alicia.
Yeah,
Thanks,
how many
Carrie.
HPC admins does it take to get your Zoom audio working? So I'm Kerry. I'm based at Monash University in Victoria, Australia, and I'm a high performance computing consultant slash admin slash wearer of many hats. I wouldn't say that I'm directly involved in data science myself, but I support people in those areas and also do some training activities and that kind of thing. So I'm quite interested to hear other people's perspectives.
Great. So we'll go over to Alicia, and then after Alicia, we'll have Marion.
Hi everyone, I'm Alicia and I am working currently as a climate data analyst, but I am interested in data sciences and would like to do more in this direction, and yeah, happy to maybe learn today where to start and how to go about it. Yeah.
Awesome. Thanks, Alicia. We'll go to Marion and then Amanda.
Hi, I'm Marion. I'm currently located in Melbourne, Australia, but I've just come back from the UK after spending some time at EMBL EBI. So my background is originally kind of like more field ecology and stuff, and then I shifted into bioinformatics as a more data-driven field. And then coming back to Australia, I saw this come up and thought it'd be a really good opportunity to see like what's going on in the data science space and what opportunities there are and what kind of skills I could potentially take on to shift potentially into that kind of data science or stay within bioinformatics. So yeah, that's why I'm here today.
Cool. Great. Thanks, Marion. We'll go to Amanda, and then after Amanda, we'll have Fiona.
Hi, thank you. Amanda Walker, Business Manager for NCI, the supercomputing facility based at the Australian National University. I'm here, I guess, with the number of hats on, and really interested to learn about, issues that interested sort of people are interested in. And also with my recruitment hat on, I coordinate all the recruitment for NCI. I'm really interested in how we can promote diversity within our organisation and what I can do to provide an environment and a recruitment process that attracts more women to the organisation, because there's not enough of us. So yeah, that's kind of why I'm here today. Thanks.
Cool. Thanks, Amanda. We'll go Fiona and then Marco.
Yeah, hi, I'm Fiona Evans. I'm from Murdoch and Curtin universities, where I'm working in big data and agriculture. I'm probably a little bit further into my career than some of you guys, but I'm looking at a career change coming up. I worked for the first 12 years at CSIRO. My background's maths and stats, and I worked in the remote sensing team there. I'm also in their marine statistics group. And then I worked with the Department of Agriculture here in Western Australia, and now I've been in academia for the last 4 years with a fully funded fellowship. I'm quite passionate about data science. I've been doing it my entire career, and I've loved to see how it's evolved. And one of the things I'm really liking right now is watching how many data science positions are advertised. Whereas 30 odd years ago when I was starting out, I was scouring the newspapers for any mention of mathematics or statistics. So it's great to see the field evolving, and I'm quite interested in just seeing what people are doing.
Excellent. Yeah, thanks. Weeks like Data Science Week probably help raise that showcase level too.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. So we'll go to Marco and then Adam.
Hi, I'm Marco. So I am from Posi Center as well, same as Aditi here in Perth. Here I am a supercomputing application specialist. So I'm part of the team that engages and supports researchers using our facilities. So this spans a wide range of domains. Myself, I am from computational material science as a background, but in the past 3 years where I've been at Posi, I've been engaging a lot with data-intensive scientists, especially bioinformaticians. So kind of built a bit of indirect experience in the domain. And I'm here today because I am keen on engaging more with the community of women in HPC and women in science more broadly, and bring my perspective in.
Excellent. Thanks. So we'll go over to Adam, and then maybe we'll have Denise type in the chat after that, since she's using chat only. And Sophia, who just joined, we're just doing a bit of a roundtable, so we'll get to you shortly. So Adam, and then Denise will type.
Hi, so I'm Adam. I'm also from NCI in Canberra. I'm a communications officer, so I do a lot of writing about the users of NCI, the research they do, and also their career paths and some profiles more about themselves and their work. So I'm really keen to keep promoting new users, early career researchers, and just kind of showcasing the breadth of skills and experiences that there is in the HPC community around us. And also I'm part of the organizing committee for the Women HPC Australasia group with Jana and Aditi and a few people. So yeah, it's just great to see all of you and be part of this.
Cool. Excellent. Thank you, Denise, for typing in your bit of bio there. Sounds really interesting. We've got great representation all the way from Tasmania to all corners, Perth, Tasmania, New Zealand, furthest remote places. So next we'll go to Lucy. If your audio is working, I know you were struggling a little bit with it there. And then after Lucy, we'll pop over to Sophia. Or if Lucy can type in the chat. Oh, it's not working. You're there. How about you type in the chat as well? And then we'll go to Sophia. We're asking people to self-introduce themselves. Just let us know your name, your role, and where you're based. Or you can feel free to type that in the chat too. Jody is our next participant. Did you want to unmute and do an intro, or you can feel free to type that in the chat as well if you'd like.
Quickly shut the door because I wasn't expecting to speak on this.
It's okay, you don't have to if you don't want to, you could listen in.
Okay, so I wasn't expecting to speak, so I just had to quickly shut the office door. My name's Jodie. I'm the analytics lead at the City of Joondalup in Perth, Western Australia.
Cool, welcome. Thanks, Jodie. Sorry to put you on the spot there, but way
That's
to work on the fly. Oh, that sounds good. So a really interesting mix of people here and backgrounds and disciplines. It's nice to see sort of, we got some private sector, we've got some academia, we've got different aspects and you know, fields represented as well. So I guess I'm really keen to sort of get into some of the questions that were sent to us in advance of what people wanted to know about. And then I had a few prompts too that I thought we could use to start some discussion. But one of the questions that was sent to us that I wanted to touch on, and I'll post it in the chat too, and you can think about this from maybe your perspective, is they were wanting to know what specific skills are in demand, you know, either currently or that you foresee being in demand in the future. And so I think you'd all have maybe different answers that you could give based on your roles. And I'd be curious too to hear, you know, does that relate to specific applications and tools or even soft skills? And, you know, there's a lot of multidisciplinary activities that happen and inter-team work that needs to happen within organizations. So curious to hear what your takes on that are. Would anyone like to jump in and speak to those skills you see being needed?
I'm happy to start.
Great.
So this is, I guess it's my perspective based on my journey, because I had a career change recently, probably in the last, I'd say 3 years ago. I learned R and I taught myself R, and I thought I would become a data scientist and code in R. And what I subsequently realized is that you don't only code in one language, you code in multiple languages, and it really depends on the project. And although I do have, I'm glad to see someone else involved in R Ladies. So I do have that passion for R, and I organise the R Ladies in Auckland. But I think just having that ability to learn new languages and adapt is a really key skill, because projects change all the time. And although what I do see now, a lot of, and probably this is more private sector than government, so I can't, or academia, maybe someone else has got an opinion on those kind of coding skills needed there. But although some job specs say there are requirements for certain languages, actually it's that ability to learn those new languages that is really key. And being able to demonstrate that you can learn those new languages from your previous projects. Soft skills also very key, and that ability to work in teams. And that's a huge topic. So I'd like to hear what other people think about the learning languages.
Yeah, Carrie, feel free.
Yeah, so it's interesting because I don't consider myself a data scientist, but one of the things that I see a lot with our users, and also the way that I describe, often the way I describe what I do at work, is that I'm a professional Googler. Other people tell me what they're trying to do, I translate that back into a common language, and then I start to point them in the direction, you know, so whether that's Python or R or some other esoteric programming language. So I think it's actually really important to not only highlight the language, but also that problem-solving framework, or how to break things down, which is what I think you were touching on, Kim, of this is what I'm trying to do, and having that understanding and being able to communicate that to other people so that you can bounce ideas off of them, and also to know the bounds of what you know and when to ask for help or branch out. So that would be something that I would place a lot of value on personally.
That's an interesting point, Carrie, because we work with a researcher based in Hamilton in New Zealand, and he's been trying to get his postgraduate students more experience in terms of using big HPC facilities. And so introducing that as a bit of the curriculum and part of sort of a practical aspect of their postgraduate work. And he said, you know, they'll get to one of the greatest skills he can teach them is how to Google stuff and how to navigate forums and ask questions and be resourceful. And I think that's actually a great life skill as well as within research. Anyone else have any experiences you'd like to share? Yeah, Iron.
Oh, I guess when you were talking about the skill involved in learning new languages, it I guess my ears peaked up because I had an interesting experience. I was interviewing to work at Broadcom, and I decided not to pursue it. But I was asked, you know, like what's one of your strengths, and I said I can learn new languages really quickly. Like this is something I'm good at. And one of the interviewers told me that he said that's not a skill. That's just being a developer. And I guess one thing is that like interviewers don't know everything, right? Like sometimes people are just arrogant and say things. But I mean, like what's kind of like the good part that I can take away from that? Because like that really knocked the wind out of my sails, right? Like it's like there's a learning curve that goes into learning languages. At the same time, you know, I've been a developer since 2009, and like you know, it's becoming more like back of my hand. You know, I know it like the back of my hand kind of thing. And so what I would suggest is that like, yes, it is really important to learn languages. And I would say it's even more important to learn different paradigms. So like object-oriented, like functional, like procedural. And then once you know that and have been exposed to several languages and get better at picking them up, then and you can do it faster and faster. And I don't mean to diminish that that skill. It is a skill, and I don't mean to pass on negativity that was given to me. I think the second part that I want to say is that it's really important to find a good fit. You know, if I'm working in a place that diminishes my skill sets, maybe I'm in the wrong place and it's worth going somewhere else. Like if I'm having an interview that's unkind, maybe I should think about interviewing somewhere else. Because even if I do a good job and I contribute a lot, it might not be the case that I'm recognized for the good work. And so to speak to your soft skills, also listening to yourself and how you react to interactions with people is really important. And what I'm getting at is like skills for the future. I think that I believe there's a lot of soft skills there, and it's part of it is finding your niche and where you can succeed. And I didn't pay attention to that in early career, and I ended up in some roles that I thought looked really great on paper, but were just kind of terrible to wake up to in the morning and go to. So yeah, just vibing off what you had to say, Kim. Thank you.
Interesting. Yeah, thanks for sharing that, Aaron. Marco, yep, jump in.
Yeah, I can add something around the different languages. I also think it's quite important. I mean, I also appreciate people that are able to switch between languages. I think it's quite crucial because different problems may be best suited for different languages, but also the size of the data problem can kind of require different languages. So I'm speaking here from an HPC perspective, and what I was about to type in the chat is that when the size of the data is large enough, we need to move to HPC. My impression is that it's when Python can become a choice to be considered more than other languages, and that's because it's a language that provides more tools and syntax and libraries to write performant code. So if you really need to scale up and use a large infrastructure, it's when we start and highly recommend the use of Python compared to other languages that can be, I'm thinking for instance of R or MATLAB, so they can be quite mature to allow a simple coding of complex mathematical and statistical processes, but they may not be at the same level of Python when it comes to make that code run fast. And that's true both for, say, distributed computing over a large number of compute nodes, but also accelerated computing on GPUs, which is becoming increasingly a hot topic in the field, I believe.
Nice. One thing I'm wondering too, with kind of our range of perspectives on the call, one of our next questions was, are there similarities or differences between working within academic or government sectors versus private sectors? And I wondered if that is even relates to a transfer of skills. So are the languages that you're using common, or has everyone made that shift from private over to academia, or both, or even just making career changes within the private sector? What are you finding as similarities that you're carrying along and the things that you could transfer well, and what have been maybe not culture change or culture shock, but some of the differences that you've had to navigate when making a shift like that through your career journey? Anyone who's had a toe in both pools?
Not necessarily for me, but I'll do this quickly because I do have to fly off to a 9:30 meeting. So I thought I'll quickly give something before I run away. I suppose for me in local government, it's very much been, I'm not a data scientist. I'll put that straight out there, but my role has started to involve more in relation to deeper analysis. So doing things around smart city projects has extended my knowledge base. I've had to understand more about enterprise architecture, functionality, integration, and all those sorts of things. That's then started taking me down pathways that I never foresaw. So what does my career look like going forward? That's probably the $64 million question. Where do I start to actually channel off? This is the evolving space for so many organisations, and the reliance on data and evidence-based decision-making has never been more crucial as to what I think we've experienced in the last 12 months. And it's kind of, me coming on here today is about trying to understand what other people are doing and where their experiences have taken them, what they're doing. I don't code. I have absolute utmost respect for people who can code, but I can see that that's pathways that I'm going to have to start exploring. Maybe not that I will be the person coding, but having that background knowledge to understand how everything links together and what needs to be done to actually get systems in place and for us to be able to apply that going forward. So yeah, I don't know if it actually answers your question, but it just gives you a bit of an insight as to what my role is here, but how it changes because of the demand of the organisation, but also the demand of expectation of society to have, that data and that information there available to us.
Thanks, Jody. No, that's great. Super valuable to hear that
Yeah,
perspective.
no, I've probably gone the other way. So I've gone from government/industry to academia, and it hasn't been a good fit for me, to be honest. I've loved the opportunity to work on research areas that I think are important, but I found that it's much harder to maintain relationships with industry, and there seems to be quite a gap between academia and industry, even though all of the universities are trying better to address that. And my feelings now are that the best way that I can deliver results that are going to make a difference in the world, which we all want to do, right, is to actually be working more closely with industry, which means working directly in industry. So that's where I'm planning to move. How I'm going to do that at this stage is still a little bit up in the air. So I'm interested in people's experiences that way.
Excellent. I've got a question in the chat there from Aditi, and a few have mentioned they'd like to start coding and programming, and many said that they're self-taught, learned along the way. And so wondering what some recommendations are for best resources for learning as an absolute beginner. If anyone wants to suggest them or type in the chat.
I'm happy to give my perspective. So I've learned to code different ways. I did actually do coding in high school, but then I studied maths and stats and went on a different path. But when I decided to change careers I think it was about 4 years ago now, 4 years ago, I thought I would teach myself to code and see how that goes. And I went online and found some online courses. So I'm just looking in the chat to see what everyone else is saying. Yeah, so I did a couple of courses, but then used, I chose R. So I think my key suggestion would be choose a language, choose the first language you want to learn, something that you can relate to, that you have a connection with. So for me, I had that stats connection. And then I did some courses, and then I found communities to join. So there are lots, in addition to the online resources, there are online communities. I found Twitter amazing. I found, for me at the time, Our Ladies there is a greater R community that provides that support and encouragement, which is something I'm not sure what other people's perspectives are on learning to code. It is challenging. It's very steep. I know you talked about steep learning curve. Have that support, friends, colleagues, and you can also have people that you've never met before support you. What I then did, I did land a job as a data scientist. And then I wanted to broaden my skill set. So I thought I'd learn JavaScript, and then I went to a boot camp and learned that way. So for me, and it depends how you like to learn, I like learning with people. So I realized that that wider community may not be enough. I wanted to work closely with people and learn in a more pair programming type of way, which is what we do at work. That's how we code sometimes by ourselves, but often we pair program or we mob together. So just having a look. Online books, the introduction to R. There's what's that other book? It's the Hadley Wickham's book. Is that the introduction to R? Fiona? Yeah. That's a great resource. So at the moment,
I think there are a lot of people learning R by doing online courses that have never bothered to read the actual manual, and it's really well written, really easy to follow, and I highly recommend it.
And so what I use, I'm just looking in there. So JavaScript. So I learned JavaScript. We use TypeScript. That seems to be good. And the other thing that I've discovered is there's a website called exorcism.io, which is really cool for practicing problems in different languages. So that's another resource. I can put it in the chat. So I'm still learning. I'm still learning how to learn.
No, that's good. I think that's probably a lot of people, no matter what stage in your career you're at, everyone's learning, especially when things are changing. I wonder too, Aaron, since you've been, in the field, mid-career, as you said, now that point that you're at, what's your journey been like? And in terms of finding ways to keep learning and, gain experience, whether that's through professional development or networking, and building confidence too.
Oh man. So I'll just start with a disclaimer that I misunderstood what the format of the session would be. So I wrote up some talking points to share. So it shouldn't be too long, but I wanted to go through it. And for some context, let's see. When I first started, I started in industry, and I had the opinion that, I'm working 40 hours a week plus, why should I do stuff on my own? And I felt that my career really started to take me places when I got over that feeling and started doing things on my own time. I'm not getting paid for it, but where am I taking my own journey? So there were 4 main points that I wanted to make, and they're gaining experience. Sorry, let me hold up my fingers. Networking, learning to stand out, and being yourself. So with gaining experience, for context, I have been in firmware like for ages, and I didn't really love firmware. So my background was I did biology, and I picked up a computer science bachelor's because I wanted to do like bioinformatics. And I got stuck in firmware because I graduated during the recession, and like that's what I got into, and I just kept going with it. And so my goal has been to switch into data science, and I wanted to get my master's in data science. So I applied for it. I got into the program, and I wanted to get tuition assistance from my work, which offered it. And my manager like wouldn't sign the paper. He said I'd be too busy. I just wouldn't sign it. So I went off and I got a second job, and I paid for it. And so, what I'm trying to say here is like, don't be afraid to have a side hustle. It can be getting hard to succeed in the world. We have the downturn because of COVID. Housing prices are going crazy, tuition's rising, and there's more and more competition. So what can we take on our own? Even, I know that we're majority women here, but we have kids at home. We have all this kind of stuff going on, and it's not fair, but I mean, life's not fair, right? Like, what can we do to stand out? So, don't be afraid to do that side hustle. So I got my data science degree, I got my master's, and I was in firmware, and I've been wanting to make the switch into data science. So first thing I did was I tried to take on a project on the data science team where I worked. And so I got about a year's worth of experience doing data science in R at my company. And my the data science lead asked for me to join his team. Management told him that, well, we need Iron in firmware, she can't go. And I was, I had some hard feelings about that, but it made me think, like, where do I fit in? It's like that story I told about the interviewer who said, learning language is just part of being a developer. It's not a skill. Like where am I where I'm appreciated? And if you're being told things that that you're making contributions and they're being diminished, perhaps we're not in the right place. And where can we go where we can really excel? So that was the attitude that I took. And then I started doing cold calls to companies. And so, for example, I worked at Essential Touch Limited. I pitched some ideas, and what I ended up doing was I did an entire marketing plan, and I designed surveys for both in person and online, and I did all the data analysis myself, and I wrote up the marketing plan, and I gave it to the CEO. And I offered to work for just a little bit of money, but mostly for the experience. And I got like really amazing experience. I did a great job. I got a great letter of recommendation, and I got a project that I could show off. So like it wasn't the financial reward like in the moment, but it's like, what can I bring with me to show that like I really know what I'm doing? Like I can kick ass, I can get there, like I can do the side hustle. And that kind of brings me to my next point is networking. We've all heard that it's not what you know, it's who you know. And maybe I wouldn't put it that harshly, but I would say that who you know is more important for getting your foot in the door. So if I back up to the year I spent like doing a side project on the data science team, or when I was working full time doing my firmware, the data science lead actually had no formal university education in data science, and he was still the team lead, right? Like sometimes he would ask me for help, and I would help him out, and he got all the credit, right? But that just goes to show, like it's who you can impress, it's who you know, it's your community that can help you. So like how do we get a community? And I don't know, that's something I've been working on. So I don't know the answer here. I would love to hear other people's insights. But what I've done is I've been going to meetups. So I'm on the list for Our Ladies. Sorry, I haven't been there yet. But I like to go to Functional Programming Auckland, and I go there, I'm able to give talks, I meet people, there's people there who have job listings, I'm on the Slack, people post their job listings, I can demonstrate what I know, and meet people who know things that I don't and learn from them. And so I feel like volunteering to give talks and sharing experience and just meeting people goes a long way. But what's really helped me is that I've volunteered to do some teaching. So I've done demonstrating for some university bachelor's classes. I've done like tutoring. I've done like a bunch of other things. So most recently I've done like the data carpentry. And that's where I really stood out and started to network. So I met my PhD advisor through teaching. I got my role at Nessie through teaching. And that's really helped me get into the academic space where I wanted to be. And you know, it makes a difference that if I'm doing something I enjoy, like it comes through. And I really wanted to be in the academic space, and I finally got there, and I met people with a little elbow grease. So it's really important to network. And so I would come back to the who you know versus what you know. Yeah, you need to know people so that you can show them what you know. So if that makes sense. And I talked about standing out a little bit. Like it's like I feel that it's getting harder to stand out. So, you know, I just want to reiterate, you know, be willing to take on that side hustle. Like it sucks. Like you got to work at night, but it also can help you get places. I actually started a company when I was in my 20s, and I'm just so grateful I did that. Like I mean, it sucked. It was a lot of work, but like today I'm happy I did it yesterday. And so just putting that out there that if you're willing to do the work that other people don't, you know, there's a higher chance you can get where you want to be. And one of my goals that I haven't done yet is I want to create my own tech blog. So if I do my own projects, how do I share them? Like, can I contribute to open source? And so the idea behind like the teaching and the tech blog idea is to help others learn, because then you can have like a win-win kind of thing. Like it's not just me getting experience and not just me saying I have this expertise, but it's helping us all succeed together. I love the Our Ladies hashtag. That's fantastic. And just kind of like concluding thoughts that I have is to be yourself. And we hear it a lot that you can succeed when you bring your whole self to work. I'm the most confident when I bring my whole self to work. And I mean, you can see, like, I'm not a girly girl, right? Like I'm not always recognized as being female, like just to put that out there. But that's how I'm the most comfortable. That's how I'm myself. That's how I can speak up. And sometimes it's uncomfortable to be yourself, but maybe it's for the best. And let's see. The last thing I wrote down is to be kind for yourself. And like as women, we don't always get noticed by putting our heads down and working hard. So let's put our hands up.
Nice, thanks, Erin. Quite a journey. Kim, did you want to?
I just wanted to touch on a couple of points there, and I think being yourself, there are ways to be yourself and share your knowledge. So I'm going to quickly touch on your being yourself and that networking aspect. I know for a lot of people, networking is daunting, especially in person. So sometimes it is easier to go online, go on Twitter. That is a lot more accessible, especially given you know, the last year it's not been that easy to get and meet people. But I think the key is just to show up wherever it is. And just by showing up, it means, you know, whether you're on Twitter, whether you post something, you're there, you can then share your knowledge and you can learn from other people. And you never know who you'll meet and who you'll connect with, because those people, you know, it is who I believe who you know. You do need to know something. And these kind of kind of talks are incredible, because we get to connect across the ocean. And yeah, I think that's my key thought is what I've had to do is maybe be myself and share my knowledge in different ways. And I've also had a blog. There was that GitHub, trying to bring all these pieces together, and from the chat as well. So having a portfolio, so if speaking in public is not your thing, although we're always looking for speakers, so there's a hint. So if you want to speak, please reach out. But yeah, if you're more comfortable writing a blog, then do that, and that's the way that other people would hear about you and about what you know. What have other people done with blogs, with networking? Keen to hear that.
Yeah, Carrie.
So I'm a member of a hackerspace here in Melbourne. So it's not hacking as in breaking into systems, doing illegal stuff. It's hardware hacking in the traditional sense, or making would probably be the best way to explain it. And I do that because I am an engineer by training, but I am a very curious and tactile individual. So my problem solving and my creativity at work is greatly enhanced when in my free time I can make stuff and really engage that side of myself, which touches on Iron's point of being yourself. But it's interesting because I think I've found more people through the makerspace or the hackerspace than I have at work recently. There are people who organize LinuxConf. There are people who are in, like the Melbourne data science groups and that kind of thing. And it's really interesting to see how something that I'm doing for my personal interests has suddenly collided with work. And we actually have quite large overlapping networks, but I never would have met these people if I hadn't sort of taken that leap and joined a social group. So it's quite fascinating the way that it's looped back like that.
Anyone else want to share? Because one other thing I was keen to hear is just, tips for being a self-advocate for yourself, especially when it comes to conversations around new opportunities or changing roles, like thinking, yeah, I should apply for that, even though maybe I don't right now have the skills for a few of the bullet points on that job listing, but I'm a quick learner and I'm keen to get into that and I want the challenge. So I should apply and tell them that I will, commit myself to doing those things. How do you have the confidence in yourself and present yourself when you're going into conversations about salary negotiations and or promotion change, role and responsibility changes, wanting to take on more. Iron, you wanted to switch to teams and they're like, no, we need you here. How do you fight to make that switch happen? Keen to hear from others. And maybe even Marian or Fiona or Amanda, Alicia, jump in. Or Iron or Kim.
Well, I'll just say something while everyone else thinks about what to say. I would say always, if you're interested, apply. Don't think that you don't meet all the criteria. I've done that a few times. And my current role, I certainly didn't have all the skills. But then you can always bring something else that's different, which is another point you mentioned. You have that unique selling point, which is different. And
I've been on both ends of the recruitment process. I've applied for jobs and I've advertised and recruited people for jobs. And I guess one of the things that people don't tend to do very often is actually call the number for more information before you do your application. So ring up and have a chat, find out what they're looking for, and you can use that when you apply. And another really useful thing is if you don't get the job, call the number for more information and just ask them, look, have you got any tips for me? And sometimes you can learn really wonderful things like, oh, well, actually, we would have employed you except for this. This person was amazing, so we employed them. And, it helps those little wins when you're searching for jobs, is just to get that feedback that actually you are a good applicant. And I also second, don't expect that you have to meet all the criteria. If you can demonstrate that you're actively able to learn new coding skills on the job as you're required, you don't have to know how to use Python in advance, unless if you're applying for a job with Google, and they will test you on it. So, and particularly for women tend to underestimate their own skills, and they tend to not put themselves out there if they think they're not going to meet all the criteria. So women need to take a little step back and say, right, what if I was that egotistical guy in the office who gets paid twice as much as me and obviously isn't as good as me? What would he say in the interview? And it's a bit of a challenge, but you know, for me, I need to take my own advice, so I'm in the same boat as everybody else.
That's quite interesting, Fiona. We were discussing this recently around the idea of being ready or at the level that you need to be to apply for a position. And it was like, maybe you can just take the onus off of yourself and say, okay, I'm going to apply, and they're going to say yes or no. It doesn't so much matter about where I evaluate myself. You know, you've got to find a balance of what you rate yourself as and what the potential employer does, but just putting yourself out there and seeing what they say, rather than agonizing over whether you meet every single item on the checklist. It can free up a bit of mental space to take some of those or apply for some of those opportunities you otherwise wouldn't do.
Yeah, and I'm just going to circle back to some of the conversation we had earlier where we talked about the soft skills. So, you know, I come from a time where my CV used to be very technical. It was publications, it was jobs done, it was, you know, what have you achieved? And now my CV is much more about who have I worked with, how have I influenced people, how have I encouraged, mentored, grown staff that are working with me, whether that's direct reports or otherwise. And I think that's, to me, that's actually something that, you know, isn't completely obvious. And sometimes it's worth getting a little bit of help to work out how to transition your representation of yourself as your skills have grown through your career.
And that can be done through, you know, whether it's side hustles or volunteering with some of these community groups and you know, the women's communities, and say you're contributing and building community, you're helping, you know, connect people and enable networking and collaboration. That's always very valuable too. I do want to work in just one quick question that I missed from the chat earlier. Before we wrap up, recognizing we just got about 5 minutes left, is kind of going back to key skills needed now or in the future. We had a question from Alicia that wanted to know, is machine learning crucial to progress in data science fields right now? And I know that that's AI is really hot right now, and so keen to you know, hear what applications you see that having in your various roles and perspectives. Any tips there?
I might jump in again. Okay, so machine learning, I've been doing it for a long time. Nowadays, machine learning is such a sexy tool that I just say machine learning even when I mean statistics, because really machine learning is all statistics anyway. It's just, you know, a little bit harder for people to understand how it works. I think it's essential, particularly useful when you're exploring the data and trying to work out what relationships are there in the data. But in my experience, I've found that if I want to get a really good predictive model, usually I then have to take those relationships and build some of the domain knowledge that I have into the model. So that means moving to something that's a little bit more statistical. So machine learning is something I do all the time. I'm just about to publish a paper that's looking at machine learning for yield prediction. But if I had another couple of years to work on this project, I would be refining my models so that they were a little bit less black box and a little bit, you know, combining the domain knowledge with the data in a sensible way. So what do other people think?
I think that's actually a really excellent point, because I come from an engineering background where, you know, you have to dig in and understand exactly how the model works and what's going on there. But I see a lot of people who aren't at that point, and it concerns me to an extent because people are using these tools without necessarily knowing what the limitations or ramifications of that approach are. So I think that's a very interesting point, and we could probably spend an entire hour digging into that one alone.
Yeah, I've been working with some companies, and they will recruit a PhD student or a graduate data scientist, and they'll say machine learning will solve the problem, and you're like, well, maybe it will, but it takes a lot more experience than that to be able to solve the problem well. So, you know, you really, when you come out with your graduate data science degree, you're really very much of a beginner in learning how to use data, and so what's wonderful is that, you know, in another 10 years, those people will be fantastic at what they do. But a lot of companies that believe in the mantra of machine learning but don't know what it means will be disappointed in the meantime, I think. And that's probably going to impact on data science as a career. There's a lot of misconceptions, I think, about what data science can do, and a lot of expectations on younger people to deliver things that they might not necessarily be able to do as easily as industry expects.
I have a thought. It's maybe an extension of that question, but I'll be brief because I know we're running out of time. I was going to kind of flip the question, and do data science roles, are they called data science, or are you called a data scientist? Not all the time. I think you can use data science in other roles. So that's what I've discovered. Working in my role now, I'm really happy because I get to code in JavaScript and use machine learning tools and models as well. So it's that's just my parting thought.
Yeah, I wondered about using a word cloud tool or something to get people to type in their current roles, just so we could see like the diversity of, and job descriptions, like titles are often very interesting because they don't necessarily always reflect what you do. So that's kind of like job descriptions. Someone made a point in the chat. Job listings may not actually cover everything that is required. Cool. Well, people are needing to drop off to go to their next sessions, but I just wanted to thank you all for coming. And I will put up the one PowerPoint slide that I did promise at the end. Oops, but I wanted to share, I guess, ways to connect with us. So with Women in HPC, I've put some data points in there in terms of we're on Twitter, Slack channel, we've got the website and email as well. This is one of many different events that we're trying to host over the course of the year, just to bring people together and talk on various topics and things. Adam, were we going to have the NCI fortnightly chat? I don't know if you wanted to put a pitch for that here.
Yeah, so there is generally just a casual catch up every fortnight for Women HPC. I was thinking of making this that, but if people want to catch up later, absolutely we can. It's always just a bit of an informal gathering. So if you just want someone to chat to for 20 minutes or so, that's always an option. I'll just check the timing. So it's 2:30 Canberra time, so 4:30 New Zealand time, and 12:30 Perth time.
Cool. Awesome. So yeah, there's my little final closing slide, just the different ways that we can connect. But thank you all for attending. Really enjoyed the conversation, and I've got lots of ideas for other future topics that we could host, and hope to all see you at that. So we'll be posting a recording of this. I'll also take just a transcript of the chat because there were some great resources shared, and would like to share those with other people and get people connected on those various forums and groups and Twitter accounts and things that were shared. So thanks all again. Thanks to our special guests who came and presented their perspectives, and thanks to everyone else who attended and joined in the conversation. Please do check out the rest of Data Science Week and attend other events. And thanks again, and we'll be in touch. Cheers all.